Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi,
How are you all today?
Vicky. Hi, Helena. How are you doing today?
Very well,
I'm
thank
really well.
Yes. What's today? Wednesday, the 9th of November. So, we're going to get started. Welcome to the Heart Talk to You family. And thank you to everyone for tuning in into the Three Souls Awakening series. So far, we really love having all of you ladies and gentlemen join us and supporting us on this journey. Um, well, it's still early days, only 8 weeks into it, and but we are quickly coming together. We have Tao and Yan joining us on this journey every week, and it's so exciting that we're quickly coming together and creating this, new community of awakening souls. And together, we can come together and create and co-create a more loving world, a more loving and accepting world. Yeah. So as we awaken together, we will begin to see that everything in our lives more clearly. You'll have a bit more clarity because you're being given these nuggets of wisdom, and it's like having a roadmap to your life before you even experience these experience life experiences. And so what you'll start to notice is the dots starting to connect, right? And things starting to have more clarity and make sense in your life. And also what you'll start to experience as you're awakening is that the shifting of people, out of your life, into your life, through your life. People will be shifting, and hopefully, and the expectation is that in this shifting of the soul's awakening, that our soul family, the Heart Talk to You family, the family that is connected to Helena and Vicky and myself, us are quickly going to come together. There's going to be a drawing of souls into this community, and if you're not already drawn, you will be. You will be drawn at the right time. So um, so everyone, that is drawn to the Heart Talk to You community, please lean into us, lean into our conversation, watch our videos. Everyone is very welcomed here, and everyone has free will, and it's definitely your choice to be here or not to be here. So I can't wait to meet you all one at a time, individually, and in person. So I'm so excited. Over to you, Vicky.
Thank you again, everyone, for watching the second awakening video last week. Thank you for supporting me on this journey and the live chat series, and also really allowing me to reflect upon my life. And it's quite a healing for me to listen as well and share my experiences with all of you. So I hope that it will allow you to reflect on your life as well and make a little bit of a difference in your life. We are now going to continue on this awakening journey together. And it's my pleasure to introduce Helena um, to share her awakening and the paradigm shifting soul sister to share her third and final awakening moment with us. So over to you, Helena, and thank you for opening up your heart and sharing this with us.
Thank you, Vicky. Thank you, Nin, and thank you everyone for basically supporting, me and the team so far. And to be honest, I personally feel very blessed and very grateful to be able to share my story, and even more grateful, for other people, who actually listen in, and hopefully it will actually help and provide, some wisdom, I don't know, information, whatever you can take out of it that can actually help yourself would be great. So I love the interactions and and interacting with everyone. So please, if you have any comments or if you have any questions, leave it in the comments box, and I will try and answer them after the presentation. Okay, so I guess it's time to start my story. All right, let me share with you. So this is obviously it's the share of my third awakening. Okay, but let's go back to sort of how it all sort of started. Let me go back to the first awakening that happened in 1997 when I was held at gunpoint, and obviously that allowed me to reflect on living life to the fullest, and it was all about based on changing the way I did things and living life based on love, right? So obviously after that, I got married in 2000, in the year 2000, and in 2001, I had my second awakening when my nephew passed away. He was about 12 years old at the time. Now, obviously, you've heard my story about that, and the lesson there was obviously I got to understand that life wasn't about just working hard or trying to create a future at the expense of at the expense of sacrificing time with your children. And so that sort of allowed me to think, okay, when it comes to children, it wasn't, it was more of being there for them, being present for them. And that was obviously what I wanted to do for my children when I had children. So my firstborn came in 2004. Her name's Anita. And then my second child, Brenda, was born in 2006. So obviously from there, it was about, sort of creating that life where I would spend, most of my time being present with my two girls. Now, we look at the story, and as you can see there, in 2020, which is just 2 years ago, was when I had my third awakening. So I tried to be, obviously went through life being, the best parent that I could be. And but it wasn't until 2 years ago when I realized that something wasn't quite right, and that was when the parenting paradigm shift started. So let me share a little bit more. Let's go back to parenting in the present moment, because obviously that was my goal. So what did I do? I started to work part-time. I was still in pharmacy at the time, so I only worked part-time because I wanted to spend more time with the girls. I was able to only work 3 days a week, and then we started a sort of a retail business which allowed us to drop them off at school, come back to a retail business, and then I would go and pick them up from school, come home, and have time with them, do homework with them, etc. Then obviously as they went to school, they got into primary school and high school, I tried to be at every school event and every sport activities that they did. And obviously I was just talking to my girls the other day, and Brenda said to me, Mum, do you still remember the day when you bought us slushies for the whole team after our game? And I said, of course I do. So it's all about creating those memories and having those time with them, especially when they needed you, and being there when they were getting awards, being at those days when they had parent teacher nights or show nights where they were performing or they had to showcase their work, and it was just nice to be a part of their journey. And obviously, it was also providing them opportunities for extracurricular activities, like swimming, music lessons, language lessons, and sports. Then we tried to holiday every year or every second year. If we didn't go overseas, then we would go, sort of interstate, and just having that quality time together. So if you can remember, we started doing houseboating with the kids on the Hawkesbury River, and to date, we've probably been on about 12 houseboat trips, and we would do that with friends, friends and family as well. And also, it was all about creating a positive and happy environment, and being available when they needed us as parents. If you have a look at those pictures, so the picture on the left there is us in Langkawi, Malaysia, and the kids were sort of speedboating. Yeah, I'm sure it was in Langkawi, and they also had the opportunity to parasail. And my girls has always been like very interested in sports, so they would play in sort of at school, basketball, netball, king, I can't remember what they're called anymore, but king ball and all those sort of sports represented the school, and we would attend most of the events, even during the school hours when they were playing against other schools. And if they had to sort of play regionals, zones or regionals, we would also be there. Obviously, we were trying to create, and I have always had in mind that I would want to create, well-balanced children. What does well-balanced children mean? It wasn't just about academics. Obviously, we want our children to excel in school and education. But what was important for me was making sure that they were also very social and emotionally intelligent. And this is where we look at, and this is what I'm doing now in terms of my business, Innovate, where we focus on IQ and EQ, balancing, making sure that the kids are not just academically inclined, that they're just not just smart in, education, but also being able to deal with people, have the ability to interact and understand people. And it's all about who you know, not just what you know. So, and we were able, personally, I feel that, we, which is my husband and I, as parents, we were able to, create, two well-balanced children, because they did the sports, they did activities, we offered them all these extracurricular activities. At the same time, it was, teaching them how to be around people and be interactive with others as well. So I think we pretty much developed that in our children. Obviously, every parent wants their kid to excel in school. So what I obviously initially, I do have to say, initially, I never sort of did tutoring with them. They never went to tutoring only until about year 3, year 4. But I know at one stage, one of my daughters is, asked to be tutored because everybody else in her class got tutored. And so therefore it was sort of a bit of pressure for her, not wanting to be behind. So that's when we started tutoring. We offered, extracurricular activities. So they did music, they did piano, and as you can see in the picture there, Brenda plays the guitar. And for me, it was, I wanted them to play music as a means of being able to let go, and where they can actually turn to when they do need help, like when they're stressed. So a place where they can go to if they didn't want to communicate with us. So, and I find that music is actually very healing for them. So we did that, and initially we tried dancing. We did a lot Well, we tried a lot of things, but we only ended up sort of doing a musical instrument, and they played a lot of sports. But in the process, obviously, I became a chauffeur. I became the taxi driver because, I was taking them to swimming. I was taking them to tutoring. I was taking them to music lessons. And in that process, I became very busy, very busy chauffeuring, very busy organizing, sort of their life. And at some point making decisions for them. But I guess it got to a stage where, over time, we noticed that they didn't want to discuss and share a lot of things with us. And because we were very close and we have always been very close and we would always talk about things, but suddenly all of this started to sort of to wane. And it was like, okay, we better chat to the girls and see what's up. When we actually spoke to them, it was like, okay, tell us what's happening. Why are you quiet? Why aren't you sharing anymore? What did we get? It was like, we know what you think. We know how you're going to react and what you would say to us. So there's no point in telling you or sharing with you. Now, as a parent, how would you feel when your kids tell you that? Don't you feel like, oh my gosh, what have we done, for them to feel like this? 16 years of parenting, and you think you've done the right thing. You think everything is working smoothly. You think everything's great. They're great kids. They are very well balanced kids academically and socially. But what happened? What happened? Why did they feel that way? So for us, it was like shock. We thought we had done really well compared to other families because our kids were doing well and they were all quite socially and emotionally intelligent. Which was what we wanted. And they're very good. And they even, sort of helped us in our business, and they were interacting with kids. They looked, like to many parents, they were perfect. But little did we realize that they still felt controlled, misunderstood, and thinking that they had expectations. And it's funny because I've, how we always say, and I know a lot of parents say this because I've spoken to many, many parents. We say, oh, we don't expect anything from our children as long as they're happy, as long as they, as long as they're happy, as long as they, they do what they want to do. We don't expect too much from them, but what are we doing? We're pushing them to do tutoring. We're pushing them to do music. We might not be pushing, but we're actually giving them all these things to do, right? And sometimes they don't even like any of these things. So you've got to, and now I'm still sort of shocked, because in one sense, I think, well, it was all giving you guys options, right? I wanted to give you guys options so that you can choose what you like and what you don't like. But just in the act of giving them all these things to choose and wanting them to do all these things is already, to them, is like an expectation. So they get into that feeling of, if I don't do it, my parents won't be happy, right? And little did we know that was how they felt. And so when we heard this statement, it was like, oh my gosh, where did I go wrong? What did I do that was wrong? So where did we go wrong? Then it was like, okay, let's process all this information, and we're just going to sort of reflect on everything that we've done. And the reflection basically led to a few conclusions. And, we look back at our parenting, and a lot of it was based on past culture, right? So as humans, even like as humans, as parents, we have ingrained in us what, previous generations of, activities, energy, um, what do you call it? So everything that we have gone through has been instilled in our genes already. It has been instilled in our mind. And obviously, it's something that we do subconsciously. We don't think about it, we automatically do things. And based on the past generations, based on the environment, and based on society, we are following what every other person is doing. So, because we want to fit in with society, all right, and we want to be a part of society and be part of the environment. And this is what I see. And I even though I wanted to be different, I wanted to lead a different life. I wanted my children to be different, but we still have all those things in us, ingrained in us. Until we are aware of it, we're still doing the same old thing. So whatever I've learned through from my parents growing up has been instilled in me. And let me just give you an example. You need to get a good education so that you can have a good job, go to uni, and then get a good job and be successful, right? So that idea has been ingrained in us, and so that's what we do. So we continue that with our children, in the sense that, okay, you need to work hard, you need to get good grades so that you can go to university and continue to do what you want to do. To be honest with you, kids don't even know what they want to do, right? But they still have to sit the HSC. They still have to go through the education, sit the HSC, get a good mark in order to get into university to do something. And so therefore, we still follow that process. And because of that, obviously, we are putting expectations, we are putting pressure on our kids, because obviously we want them to have, we want them to have a successful life. So therefore, we're actually, sort of putting them through all of this, and on this pathway, on this journey. And I guess the other thing is also our lack of, and when it comes to, what I mean by own lack is the fact that what we never used to have, or what we've always wanted but didn't get, is what we will be willing to give our children, right? A lot of, like, for example, if you're a parent who is not, who hasn't got a higher education, you would want your children to have a higher education so that they can have a better life. I know, for one, I've always wanted to learn how to play the guitar. So I wanted my children to be able to learn the piano, play the piano, or play the guitar. And I mean, to this day, they play and they sing, and I love listening to them. But that was because of my own lack that I never got, that I actually, sort of wanted my children to have. There are people out there who never had the chance to, sort of buy branded clothing. So therefore, a lot of the time, what happens? They'll get that for their kids. Never had expensive, sort of toys, expensive materialistic things. And because of that, that's what we want for our children to have. And there are parents that I do also know where they wouldn't buy the expensive stuff for themselves, but they would buy it for their children. Okay, so we're enforcing a lot of these things on our children because of our own, our own lack. And in sort of, and in doing, whatever we're doing, wanting our children to be successful and be happy, we have put sort of control and expectations on them unintentionally, even though we didn't want to, we are. And a lot of the times, why why my daughters say that, oh, we know what you're going to say. A lot of the times when they come, it's like, no, you can't do that. No, you can't go there. No, 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 no. And this is all based on being reactive. And if we start being reactive to our children, we actually don't give them a chance to even express themselves. Okay, so we should be trying to understand our children, try to understand our children from where they're coming from, and then, being able to make decisions based on that, rather than, just because you're a parent doesn't mean that you have the right of say all the time. And a lot of the times we react and we answer very quickly based on what we want for ourselves. So let me give you an example. It's like, if my daughter is going to go out with a group of friends and I don't feel comfortable because she's still very young, right? And obviously I don't want her to go out, especially, sort of nighttime. I would, most of the time I would say, no, you're too young to go. Or, they want to go out to the movie, not the movies, but there are times where they want to do something that you don't want them to do. And it's like, no, you can't do that. It's easy to say no, but at the same time, it's because of us not wanting it to happen, because we feel that it's unsafe, or we feel that they're too young or whatever. But what we need to understand is the fact that, we should try and see from their perspective why they want to do what they want to do, why they want to go where they want to go. They may have friends who they're going out with. Maybe they're celebrating, sort of a friend's birthday or whatever. But obviously there are reasons that they want to go somewhere or do something. So the learning was, after sort of what had happened, I guess it was all about learning about, the children. And what I did learn was the fact that, children are individual souls on a journey to discover their own purpose. When I heard the saying that, your children may come through you, but they don't belong to you, for me, it was very profound, because I thought, what? I gave birth to my children, so how can they not belong to me? And so I had to actually really understand that statement altogether. And I thought, hang on, if they don't belong to me, then who do they belong to? All right, because they're mine. They came through me. So who else could it be? Who else could they belong to? So it took me a while to process that, to actually understand that, because I was also on a learning journey for myself. And I understood the fact that I am a soul, and when I understood that I am a soul and I came here for a purpose, I understood that children are also souls and they're also here on a purpose. So, and what we need to also understand is the fact that, how sometimes we tell them, you shouldn't do this because it's not the right thing to do. I've been there, I've traveled the world, I've done this, I've done that, and I know it's not right, and you're going to make that mistake. These kids, and we tell them all the time, you can't do that, you shouldn't do that. But they don't understand, and they still want to do that. Why? Because the children are on a different timeline to us. What does that mean? It just means that for us, well, for me anyway, and for most parents, let's say, so I'm 48 years old. So I've lived life 48 years. Okay, so 48 years. When you think about it, these children are only what? How old are your children? Your children may be 5, maybe 10, maybe 15, maybe 20. They've only traveled that long. We've traveled double the journey. So therefore, when you're trying to explain to them that, no, you shouldn't do this because this is going to happen, they're not going to understand. And if they're not going to understand because they haven't gone through that process yet, of course they're going to defy us, and they're not going to like what we're going to say. So therefore, we need to now, as parents, understand that, okay, they're not going to understand, and they're not going to understand why, because they haven't made that mistake. They haven't failed. They haven't been hurt. They haven't been in pain. So therefore, they're not going to understand. So what does that mean? It means that they need to go through the process themselves in order for them to learn. And as parents, we should be here to walk with them along their journey. We are to guide our children, not control them. Okay, so they're here to determine, to find their purpose. And if we're going to control their path and make them go a different path, they're not going to find their purpose, which means that they're not going to be happy, because they're not going to be happy. So if you want happiness, if you want them to find happiness and you want them to find a purpose, then you need to allow them to navigate their own life journey and their own path. Of course, we are not just going to let them do everything themselves. We will guide them, and you make sure that you tell them if you need help, you need advice, we're always here. I've also had to learn that we need to love and respect their decisions to experience their own life, right? So it's very hard to let go. I mean, I've got an 18-year-old, right now, and, she's making decisions, and it's like, I may not like it, but I have to be able to accept it and allow her to decide on what she wants to do, experience, the good and the bad, so that she'll be able to learn. But it's not easy, not at all easy to let go, especially when your child has turned 18 and they're now an adult, right? Which means you can't really make the decisions for them anyway. And allow them to learn through their own mistakes, because that is the only way they're going to grow and become themselves and become more successful. And obviously, we need to learn to love them unconditionally. Whether they fail, whether they succeed, of course, they're going to make mistakes, but be able to accept the fact that, yes, it is a mistake that they've made, support them, and loving them unconditionally no matter what. So what lesson did I learn? Oh, big lessons, of course. What I did learn was the fact that we all have to pause. I've learned in my life and in my personal life and in business that I have to pause, right? I have to pause in order to reflect and in order to learn more, because it's not until you pause and you stop and reflect do you realize what is the next step. This quote here: when you pause a machine, it stops. But when you pause a person, okay, they reset, they restart, they reset. So it's very important that as a person that we stop, we pause, we reflect before taking the next step. And if we can do that for our life and for business and for work, then we should also be able to do that for our children. What does that mean? It means that we should not react to everything that they say, everything that they do. Why? Because when we react, we say whatever comes out of our mouth without thinking. And that is what most of us do. I mean, I know there are a lot of parents who have awakened and who knows this and who are very aware of what I'm talking about. But there are still a lot of us who are still reacting. Okay, so try not to react. And it's not easy because we're used to be, the parent who knows it all, and we are older than them. So therefore, we know better. So therefore, we will always say things very quickly and we react too quickly. So how do we stop reacting? What I can say is pause, okay? Which means we need to stop, which means we need to shush and zip up, okay? So we need to learn to listen by staying silent. Now, if you look at the word listen, Listen, if you unjumble that, it becomes the word silent. So in order, in order to listen, you need to stay silent. And it's when you are silent that you can listen. Why is that important? Because when you listen, you will get information. When you listen, you will begin to understand. And in understanding, you will then be able to be, you'll be wiser. And when I talk about being wise, as parents, we need to be wise in being able to not just not react, but be able to respond in a positive way. Now you're going to ask me and say, hey, how can we actually respond when, when it's not right? And this is where you need to stop, listen to what they have to say, and then find a solution that is not just about us, or a solution that is just to make us happy, but a solution that will work for both parent and child. So it has to be a win-win situation. Okay, so what was the lesson? To pause whenever you can. Learn to not react by zip. This is what I say to people. We need to zip. Okay. Shh. When they say something, when they want to say something, when they want to ask for something, whatever it is, before you say anything, just listen. Okay. Be silent and listen. So what I do now is when my girls want to tell me something, I just listen. And when they want to ask for something, I just listen. And I actually don't even respond to them. What I will say though is, okay, I hear you. Let me think about it and I will get back to you. Because by doing this, it will give you time to think about what they're saying, their intentions, why they want to do it, or why they want to ask you for whatever they want to do. And you now need to respond in a way that will make both happy. So a lot of the times it might be hard to say, okay, but now you've got to put in the boundaries. Okay. So as parents, we need to have boundaries. And it's all about being able to set boundaries for your children and then bringing these boundaries in when you do respond to them. So it doesn't mean that, if they are young, then yes, by all means, as a parent, you make the decision for them, right? But when they're at a, sort of an older age and they know what they're doing, and obviously they have, wants, and there are things that, they would like to sort of decide on for themselves, it's like, okay, obviously we need to give you some responsibility and you are allowed to do some of these things, but this is the boundary, okay? This is what I would like you to do in return. So if you're going to go out, yes, you can go out, but I will take you, or you need to be back, okay, at a certain time, and it has to be a certain time. Why? You need to explain to them. So children understand, and they're very reasonable. As long as you can, you can tell them the reason why you are setting all these boundaries and why your response is that way. So a lot of the times it will always work out, but you just need to listen and learn to understand where they're coming from. Because in the understanding is where you can respond in a way where it can make everybody happy. And obviously, we need to be present for them all the time. And when you are with your children, just be present with them. which means, sometimes I know the phone is always there with us. The phone is a big distraction. If you're going to have time, if you're going to go out to dinner with them, then just have dinner, have a conversation with them. Don't get stuck, don't get too distracted by the phone. I know that is simple, but yet this is a problem that is, happening right now in society. And I mean, screen time is a pandemic right now anyway. So it is hard, but we can only try. And the more present you are with them and the more unconditional love that you have with them is where you will be able to connect with them more. So in summary, basically, learn to parent consciously rather than unconsciously, because there are things, energy and, previous learnings that we have had from generations that is instilled in us. So therefore, it will come unconsciously. And what I'm asking you to do is be conscious, be aware of everything that's happening, be more mindful of what they're going through, and, understand them, try and understand them from their perspective and in today's environment. Children are highly, highly emotional beings, and they are gifted. Every one of them are gifted, obviously in different ways, with talents and skills, but it will lead them to their own happiness and success journey. Okay. So allow them to grow, to learn and grow by making mistakes and everything. But knowing that you are there to love and guide them. So it's, guidance is very important. Obviously, we're guiding. Okay. No more controlling. We all learn our lessons. But sometimes, and sometimes it does take a big awakening to learn all of these things. Well, basically, that's it from me. But I do want to leave you all with a slide, a quote here, and it's learning how to practice pause, because I do think that it is very important. So when in doubt, pause. When angry, pause. When tired, pause. And when stressed, pause. And when you pause, pray. Whether you pray, whoever you pray to, pray for happiness, pray for gratitude, pray in gratitude, and pray for, and if you need help, pray for help. But it's important that you pause and reflect. Okay? All right. I think that's it, and I'm ready for questions. If you have any questions, please go ahead and ask me.
Well, I got a quote here from Melita Rodriguez. So I like that advice, very powerful, Melita. So I have to say, whoa, wow. I think, this particular story is not even like a nugget of God. I think it's like a download from you, Helena, and maybe like a big, when you have a gold rush and you hit rock, the rock gold, the big boulder of gold. Well, I think that, your awakening, this one was that, not just a nugget of gold, a big boulder of gold. um, for parenting. And parenting is very important because, we are shaping in the future. They always say, oh, the future is our children, the future are our children, in our children. So it is very important to parent them with wisdom, and definitely I think your story tonight has given us not just nuggets of wisdom, I think like boulders of golden nuggets of wisdom. So I really thank you for sharing your story, Helena. And yeah, like a boulder, like like I don't know. I haven't seen a boulder of gold yet. They're quite expensive. So
Well,
yeah.
it was, when you think you've got it all right, when you think you've got it all right, when you think you've done everything right, and then you get hit with this, it's like, oh my gosh, seriously, what went wrong? And so it was an awakening, and I just feel that it's it was a paradigm shift for me in terms of parenting.
So thank you so much for sharing all these nuggets of gold with us. Yes, I think we need a parenting course from Helena to get all of the tips and tricks on how to parent our children to turn out like her two daughters.
I mean, you try your best. I mean, they're not, perfect, but I guess, good, considered good.
Yeah, I think that
Thank
they're
you for
great.
watching. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us and listening to my story. I just hope that you can reflect on your own story and hopefully be able to, sort of take whatever you can and then apply whatever you can from today's session. Thank you.
Yeah. Well, next week, I just want to remind you, next week on Wednesday, 8 p.m., it's going to be Nim's turn on sharing her third and final awakening moment with all of us. So please join us next week, and we would love to see you there. And also, um, you're more than welcome to participate with us, ask any questions or ask or add any comments, because you are also part of this community. So feel
Yep.
free to talk to us. And I hope to see you all next week. Thank you, Helena. Thank you, Nan.
Thank you.
Thank you.
See you next.
Bye.
Thank you for your support. Thank you.
Bye.